The Geek Podcast on this Monday evening. With me tonight, as always, we have my co-hosts, Peter A. Ellison.
Good evening, everyone.
And JonJo Cosgrove.
Hello, everybody.
And a special guest tonight, hailing from the land of Florida, in the US of A, we have Nick Keating Casbarro.
Happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for joining us. So, Nick, who are you? What do you do? What's your thing?
All right, broad question. So I am an author. The most recent edition of Vitalerium. So it is a sci-fi series, or I should say sci-fi space opera series following humanity. It's a far future tale taking place about 700 years in the future after humanity becomes multiplanetary, which is all thanks to the discovery of a new element that's not native to Earth, which they call Vitalerium. And this discovery basically initiates the golden age of space exploration for humanity, which sees multiple planets colonized. A gigantic war ensues over the source of Vitalerium. And finally, you end up picking up the story about 700 years in the future on the seventh colonized planet, which is called Diorum. And you basically end up following a roughneck freelancer, kind of a mercenary type, who's doing odd jobs for local gangs when you first meet him. He's really kind of a lost soul. He's basically just blowing all the money that he makes on booze and whores, kind of floating through life. And in the process of doing so, he basically becomes embroiled in a massive conspiracy that has the authoritarian government of his planet hunting him. And so he has to band together with kind of a motley crew of allies, both in the underworld of Diorum and those in the public eye as well, to be able to survive the ordeal. And that's just book 1 out of 7 that I'm approved for right now. So this is just the very beginning. There's also the comic book series that I've had created, which is an adaptation of the book right now, but the entire canon includes a time before the book, character offshoots, which are going to give, a lot of backstory into some of the other important characters. The book is written multi-narrative, so you do get a scope of just the entire world building that went into creating the Vitalerium universe, which I really wanted to do. I really enjoy that multi-narrative kind of genre where you're getting to see things from other perspectives. And yeah, I'd say that's kind of the long and short of it.
How much time did you spend preparing to write? This feels like a project that a lot of time was spent just researching, planning, preparing before you even actually started to write the story.
Yeah, it took me about 2 years to build the universe and get the first book finished before I even started the publishing process, because the publishing process took about another 10 months on top of that. So fairly long process for the first book to get out. It was also the first book I've ever written, probably the first thing I've written other than a professional email in the last decade or so. So it's really a bit of just an entire, 180 in terms of career paths. I started this book when I was working at my last company, which basically had me on a flight 3 to 5 days a week.
Wow.
And so I had a lot of plane time. So this entire book was written at 36,000 feet. That just became my writing office. It became a place where I could put my headphones in, just tune out all of the noise, and focus and write. And I like to tell people I was just that much closer to space. So that was
I do find the nature of commuting makes it an ideal time for writing, because you're very little in the way of distraction. You can just focus on what you need to write.
100%. It really helped to carve out the time that I needed. And, it's funny because for the first 6 months I was working at this company, I was basically doing what everyone else does when they get on a plane, which is just download a few movies or TV episodes or just something I wanted to watch. And I would dive into that. But after 6 months of doing this 3 to 5 days a week, I basically beat Netflix. So I got to a point where I was just kind of wasting time on things I didn't even really want to watch or, dive into. And I had a few ideas that I had kind of hobbled together from whether it was, just my childhood, drawing comics and when I was supposed to be paying attention in class, to, some of the things that were going on in, um, this was right around the COVID time period, or, right in the aftermath of COVID when it was still, very much in place for a lot of different areas of the world. Luckily, Florida was a little bit lax with it. So I was able to, kind of jump in a little bit earlier. But there was a lot of, this was like the era of, oh, there's a lot of conspiracy theories. There's a lot of current events that are very, very interesting. And, some of those conspiracy theories turned out to be not so conspiratorial at all. It's not so crazy after all. And, it was just the perfect time for me to jump in and start writing about some really interesting stuff. Lots of new physics breakthroughs coming through, and even to this, still to this day, every time I see something new pop up, some kind of new paper or something, I find myself trying to find it so I can research and see how I can incorporate it into future editions of the book.
Was there anything like any particular moment or anything that particularly happened to you that really, jump started this idea for Vitalerium? Was there just like one moment where you just went, "Oh, I've got a good idea," and then led from that?
Um, I would say there was one particular flight when it really started, because I really didn't set out to do what I ended up doing. I was just looking to pass the time with something that was, I guess, a little bit more productive than, watching movies. And I was getting on a flight from Miami to Hawaii. It was a long flight, because there was a convention out there for the job that I worked at, and I had put together some kind of, it was almost like a history, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, maybe I can turn this into something. So I said, well, let's give it a shot. So I got on the flight, I started writing, and I got off the flight and I was on chapter 4. It had just poured out of me. And mind you, I hadn't had a creative outlet for the longest time. So this was, the buildup was starting to, let's just say that the pressure was high when it all finally came out. And then I basically thought, well, this was a lot of fun. I've been enjoying this, but if I'm going to do this, I might as well plan it out. I don't sit still well. I always like to have side gigs and, different projects and things to do.
#ADHD.
Yeah, very much so, my friend. Very.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
And so basically, I started planning out the world. I just started with, what are the themes I want to write about? And, that kind of graduated to, well, who are the characters? Who are the factions that we're dealing with? Let's give the characters some backstory. And every question I answered brought up 5 more questions that I had to answer. And soon I had just this 40-tab monstrosity in Excel that documented everything about the Vitalerium universe, from, the planets that were involved, what the government structures were like on those planets, what are the people like, what language do they speak, how many moons does it have?
Why do you use Excel, out of curiosity?
I do. I don't. I've heard of a lot of writers using some, certain tools for writing and note keeping and things like that, and I just used what I had, what I knew, I guess, at the time. So there are probably more efficient ways to be planning all of this out, but I haven't taken the time to really get there, because I've just been pedal to the metal ever since, I started writing this. It was weird, there's a real passion behind this, and it's like nothing I've ever done before in my entire life, really. I just feel like I need to get this story on the paper. And part of it is because I've been enjoying the hell out of it. And the other part is, I don't know. I just there's a number of different sources of inspiration, but part of it is my love for sci-fi. Part of it is, all the craziness that's going on in the world right now, and has been, for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And then, part of it is I've got some fucked up dreams. Sorry, I've got some really, really vivid recurring dreams. I experience sleep paralysis on a fairly regular basis. And so you'll find that not only are there, like some current events that I extrapolated certain topics from and pushed that out 700 years, but there's also some cosmic horror elements that I implemented into this book as well, which I wanted to, when I started this, I was operating off of, just whatever I had heard about writing, which is, write what you know, blah, blah, blah. And so a lot of it is coming from, just some of the crazy stuff from my own life. I based a number of characters, for instance, on people that I actually know in real life, because I feel like that really added an extra breath of life into the character and made them more real.
Sorry, you've kind of answered it already, but we generally sort of ask all of the sort of different authors we've had on. What's the other one, Pete? It's a pantser and
are you a pantser or planner? Do you like plan out what the story's going to be, or do you write by the seat of your pants?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Sorry, do you plan everything out, or do you just kind of let it come out like right by the seat of your pants, just kind of have no plan and just see where the story takes you?
So I like to keep, let's say this, there are certain major events that I work towards. Yeah. What happens in between, I try and keep fluid. What inevitably happens as I'm writing the book is I come up with some kind of vague chapter breakdown, kind of what I plan to happen, but that, like I mentioned, stays fluid. It changes constantly as I'm writing. When as you write, you come up with different ways to, actually, if this happens with this character, then I have to go back and change this, but it actually helps something later on in the future happen better. So I go back and forth. Like I said, I try and keep the elements between the major events relatively fluid so that I can improvise as I need to. I can keep things real, at least true to the characters. And so there is, I'd say there's elements of both, because as far as the full story arc, you're basically watching the emergence of a future mythological hero. Mm-hmm. So I know what I kind of want to generally happen in the second segment and in the final segment, but how we get there, it's
you kind of got the broad strokes of the story plotted out, but the actual details you kind of like effectively making up as you go on the fly to kind of keep it fresh and fluid, and you can adapt to how the story evolves.
100%. And I think that's important to maintaining like a kind of a realistic path for any of the characters' journeys. Yeah.
I mean,
Pete, before you start, I'm going to say to you right now, I think you're talking over your microphone, so push it back slightly, because I think we're not getting you, we're getting...
Yeah. Is that better?
What?
That sounds better to me.
I'm sorry.
Welcome to microphone maintenance.
I'm a microphone Nazi. Yeah. Give me a testing 1, 2, Peter. I know we're live, but just do it.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Better, much better.
Okay,
there you go. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about kind of it's very space opera. It's also cosmic horror, but how do you kind of embed that realism in the story?
So I also like to say that there are elements of hard sci-fi in there as well. I tried to I'm not a physicist. I admit that openly. I have a medical background that, I went to school to be a physical therapist, actually.
Okay.
Well. And I always have my wife, the surgeon, to bounce things off of when I start getting real into the weeds with anything medically related in the storyline. But I had to do my research to make sure that I was at least, trying to answer within reason. I'm extrapolating. Yes, I admit that. We're talking about a society 700 years in the future, but I wanted to find a way to create kind of a relatively modern society in the future, with all of the frills of advanced technology and everything else surrounding it, how we actually get to that point. That's, I talk about a technology they use using quantum coupling to basically enable instantaneous communication between planets, so that we're not trying to so there are elements of hard sci-fi, because I did want to kind of please the hard sci-fi guys, and write kind of like the stuff that I liked. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Isaac Asimov and Adrian Tchaikovsky, which I mentioned before prior to this. All of the dystopian classics, Orwell and Aldous Huxley, who didn't just write the sci-fi. He wrote a lot of interesting stuff about psychedelics as well, which was those are interesting reads. But I also wanted to make sure that it was engaging, and the way for me to do that was to make it very character focused, which is why I feel like it's kind of that nice mix between space opera and sci-fi. And the cosmic horror elements are kind of a nice little addition that I think I introduced through dream sequences, which once again, I mentioned that I've got an interesting set of dreams that likes to visit me when I sleep. But I wanted to give the protagonist a little bit of a hint of that as well. And there is a much larger storyline that is building in the background through those dreams that is yet to be seen.
That kind of ties into how kind of Lovecraft created his mythos, because he was very much inspired by his own dreams and nightmares.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's I've been reading about Lovecraft recently. Apparently, like he was inspired, at least in part, by his own dreams.
I'm going to have to do a little bit of research into that myself.
Yeah.
Nice.
And also, you kind of be planning out a comic books and an audiobook adaptation. That's a lot of production. That's a lot of actual, not writing the story, but actual just pure production levels.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't sleep much.
Who's your who's the person, the actor doing the audio for you? Because audio for me, like, is super important for the engage into a book. Who anybody we know? Or
I couldn't agree more, because I've listened to audiobooks too that have kind of put me to sleep, and it may even be on literature that I like and may enjoy in book form. But I wanted it to be kind of an immersive experience once again, because I'm crafting this world. I am creating kind of this ambitious story arc throughout the series, and I want to give people something they can sink their teeth into and really dive into. So I found a guy named Michael Neeb. That's Neeb. And shout out to Michael Neeb, by the way. He did an unbelievable job. He's got this movie trailer voice when he needs it. He does unique voices for each character without making it too cartoony. He goes back in post-production and he has music and sound effects and voice modulation and tones when it gets suspenseful. So it's like you're listening to a movie. And that's what I wanted it to be like. I wanted to take the reader on the adventure and really have them. I wanted to give them what I felt as I was writing it.
Yeah, it sounds like akin to a radio play, rather than like an audio book. It's more like a radio play.
Almost. It's definitely got that kind of feel to it. It's I don't know. It's everyone who's the reviews so far have been pretty overwhelmingly positive. So I'm grateful for that. So I did take a risk trying to do it that way, because it's not everyone is putting that much production. Not everyone sees that much production as necessary, but I wanted to make this kind of fun, because we're covering a lot of really heavy themes. It's a dark story. It's not your cozy fireside read. This is supposed to be an edge of your seat kind of experience, and I wanted it to be a fun one despite that, so that people could really, like I said, just enjoy it.
Yeah. Like it's super important. Like I love, like I read a lot, but it's got to the point now where, because I'm busy all the time, I feel like I have to do the audiobooks more often, because I can do it on the drive, I can do it when I'm on the train, I can do it when I'm walking down the street, and I feel like I get a bit more. I feel bad because I've got all these books and I don't get to read them. Whereas at least if I'm walking down the street or I'm in the car, and granted, now and again you zone out every now and again, but having the fact that I can do audiobooks is super important to getting rid of that backlog for all the books, and those audio narrators are super important. Like I have got so many books where I am just obsessed with their narrators, and if they have to be on those books. So there's like Tim Gerald Reynolds, who does the Red Rising audiobooks, and then you've got Jonathan Keeble, who does a lot of the Horus Heresy Warhammer 40k ones. It has to be Jonathan Keeble. And then you've got Stephen Pacey for the Blade itself stuff. And like, if anybody else does those, I get very upset about it. There's a dramatization. There's a dramatization of the Red Rising, which has come out. So it's lots of different narrators. Now it's not bad, but it's not who I want it to be. And so when they change it, it just makes me feel a bit sort of angry, because I'm like, this is not what I want. This is not what I want. This is not how it should be. And I was like, it's not so annoying. But then I've had books, and we've had writers on here, and they've talked about the book, and I'm like, sold. I'm totally into this. I'll buy the book. And then I've got the audiobook, and the audiobook is just the actor, with all due respect, I couldn't do it myself, but it just didn't. It just fell flat, and it just put me off.
Voice acting is very much a skill.
Yeah, exactly. It really put me off the book, and I was like, I know if I read this book, I would love it, but the audio book is just doing nothing for me whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have listened to the High Republic books, the Star Wars series, because the audiobook versions of them are really good, but they've got a lot of production in them as well. So they've got a lot of the music, the sound effects, and the guy that, it's only one person that voices all the characters, but he does do a really good job on it, and he does put a lot of personality into it. I find that very engaging. I could listen to them books over and over, and then you get some that are just, you got someone who just clearly has just recorded it probably on a quick afternoon. It's like, yeah, I can bash this book out in one day, and
it's monotone.
It shows.
It's monotone ones. Yeah. It's like the ones where there's
He went down the road.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's the same. Like I love a good history. Like I'm massively into my history and stuff, and all the history. Like I love Tom Holland and things like that, and I love. Like he does a lot of his own narration now, but previously he'd have sort of actors doing it, and it was so engaging, lovely. But then you'd get some books who blatantly just went, "I'm just going to get AI to do this, or I'm going to get somebody else to do this." And it was so painful, and I'm like, I want to be engaged by this, but it's killing me right now. I can't. Especially AI. I'm not sure if you've noticed, like it's the AI. I've noticed that there's a lot of books, and granted, if you can't afford an actor and stuff, they're using AI. Voice to narrate books, but it kills it because they don't pronounce things properly.
Yeah, but you've got sites like Fiverr. You can get someone to do a whole reading for you.
But I
for like the cost of a coffee.
I have 3 history books. 3 history books recently that I downloaded, all and I didn't realize all AI voiced. And the only reason I caught on was because they were just pronouncing something really weirdly, and then there would be breaks, and then suddenly it would start again, and I was just like,
goes to show you, they don't even listen to it either. They're not even checking to make sure that the quality is any good. They're like, yeah, we've put it through the system. It's got to be fine.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I can assure you that months of revisions and reviews went into this one. So you should run into that same issue.
No,
is this all self-published, by the way? Is this all self-published? Or are you going through a traditional publishing route?
So I went through a hybrid publisher. I know a
Okay.
publisher. They're called Atmosphere Press, and I got to give them credit. They did a really bang up job getting this out there and really taking the time to kind of show me the ropes because once again, this is my first time
Yeah.
ever, going through the process. They really taught me a lot, and they provided a lot of different. I mean, I had an in-house publicist for a while. I
Oh,
had,
nice.
they
What
helped
is a
me submit.
hybrid publisher? Like for our listeners at home that may
So
not be
hybrid
familiar.
publishing me. Oh yeah. So essentially, I would cover a portion of the process to get it published,
Yeah.
and then they would support me through distribution, through basically getting me set up in all the different channels, helping me to submit for reviews, helping me to market the thing a little bit at the beginning.
Nice.
They did offer help with the cover, but I did not like the cover that they initially made. So I ended up finding my own guy on Upwork, not Fiverr, but he did a phenomenal job, and I ended up um, giving him a lot of work subsequently after that to actually render a number of the characters in 3D so that I could use those for marketing purposes as well. And just, throw out the idea that this, I'm not just stopping at books and comics. I want to try and see this through to all outlets of media, even if I have to bring it there myself. So this is kind of like a second calling for me. So I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, because you also done the comic as well, and obviously the audio book, and that, like I say, that's a lot of production that's kind of you put upon yourself going through this hybrid publishing route.
Yeah, and the audiobook I did do by myself.
Wow.
Not by myself, on
Yeah.
my own with Michael Neeb separately. But it turns out that is, that's the way a lot of people are consuming their books
Yeah.
nowadays. I mean, my audiobook came out a couple months after the book came out, the physical book, and my audiobook sales are already beginning to surpass my physical book sales. That's
It
just
is.
something.
I imagine like there's also a cost element. Without going into nitty gritty money, but I mean, writing is a business. I mean, we can do it as much as the love of the art, but in order to be successful and continue doing it, you kind of have to purchase a business. So how do you kind of balance those two sides of it?
Well, so I have not written my way out of my day job just yet. That's how.
No guitar shaped pools and a West Wing in your mansion yet.
So I after I went to school to be I am not a practicing physical therapist. Let me preface that. So I did 5 out of the 6 years, because you need your doctorate to be a physical therapist now in the U.S.
Yeah.
So that's 6 years of school to be a PT, and I realized pretty late in the game, basically year 5, that this isn't what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Ouch.
And so much to my parents' chagrin, I decided to graduate early, which I had enough credits to graduate like a year before that at that point. And I kind of fell into sales. I got into medical sales, was basically how I kind of utilized those sciences moving forward. And I did that for about 10, 11 years. And just recently this year, I opened up my own medical distributorship. So that's kind of what I'm doing in my day to day. Just to, like I said, pay the bills, and any money that is delegated toward the book stays toward the book. I don't take any profits from that. Every dime of it just gets reinvested back into what's the next thing for this, because I just want to.
A labor of love.
I get so much satisfaction out of building this that I don't know. I hope people enjoy it as much as I like making it, because I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
So hang on. So obviously you've got this quite important day job really going on as well. You're doing all this stuff with the book. You've got the comics, all that. When do you ever find time to sleep? That's the next question.
That's once again that is the question, my friend. I got a 2-year-old as well.
Jesus Christ! You're just adding on to it.
I've got yeah. So it's
so they're starting to talk now. So silence has ceased to exist in your household.
Yes, yes. So it's always something. Let's just say that it's. But that seems to be the way I like it. Like I said, I don't sit still well, so it suits me.
I've been tempted by.
Pete. I'm sorry.
Hello.
I'm sorry. Turn your mic. See, this is your microphone right here. You've got it to the side. I want you to turn it. I want you to turn it so the knobs.
Why do I feel like
back.
you're about to do the Stone Cold Steve Austin thing?
There you go. Start talking.
Okay, is that better?
Way, there we go. So you see this thing at the back here, Pete? These are your settings, yeah, for the where the microphone's going.
It's a microphone.
I know, but it was sounding echoey. I was doing my melting.
Anyway,
do you know what? Because I've been seeing this from the side, from the corner of my eye. I keep seeing Matt's face. He's going. He's gonna blow.
Sorry, it was just
that's called constipation.
I could see his microphone just be there, and I was like, dude, I know exactly why that microphone's not sounding properly because he's got it turned to the sides, and I was like, I must say something. Sorry,
it's a microphone. Anyway, do you have any other plans for further expansions into animation or
RPGs?
I have, so I do. I've already begun trying to reach out to a couple of different animators, a couple of different animation schools to see if I can, get some help from some students to try and get something made. More of a proof of concept at this point. My goal is to get like a short animated film made, anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, depending upon what my budget's going to look like. And but yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, ideally, I'd like to see this as an animated series, maybe down the line, a live action series, a video game. That's one of the reasons why I rendered all the characters in 3D.
Nice.
Just trying to put that out into the ether, from the get-go. But I actually even based one of the characters on a friend of mine who's an actor. His name is Levon Panic. And I even modeled it after his likeness. He gave me permission to do so. And he's been, basically he said, look, you can use my likeness, but you got to cast me as that character when you actually turn this into a movie.
I was just about to say, that's going to be the one clause. He's going to be like, yeah, if it ever comes back, and you're like, no, don't worry, I've got Tom Cruise or someone online, so
and he'll just go,
no, I don't have Tom Cruise.
But I see a lot of I see a lot of discussion at the moment amongst actors and in the acting industry about the copywriting of their likeness.
It is a big thing, and I know that there was, that was one of the reasons why there was a strike, right? Not too long ago.
Yeah.
That was also related to writers and everything else, but I know that's a hot topic still.
Yeah.
To this day. So I am willing to help anyone who helps me in, my early years of getting this off the ground. So it's a good friend of mine. I basically said, absolutely, I'll cast you as this character. Now stay in shape. So, I know it's a big thing. And yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah,
I know what I've been kind of told, but AI, it's certainly disruptive, or it has the potential to be incredibly disruptive.
It's a double-edged sword. I think it's good in that it can help with automation. We use it in work quite a lot for automating things, but when you come to generative AI, it's like some of the stuff you can see, like you can see the new Google, what's it, I can't remember what it's called.
Not Copilot.
No, not Copilot.
That's my stuff.
Sorry, you know the new sort of video generator which is going around. They've got people doing selfies like it's like Sasquatch, and he's sort of taking, and he's going.
Oh yeah.
Is it VO?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And some of that stuff is pretty sort of like it's very stylized and stuff, so you can tell it's AI. But you can if it can do that, then you can and I've seen some videos of it's some old dude in a tiger pen with his dog, and people are going, oh, there's a guy in the tiger, and they're acting like it's real. Now the only reason it's AI, it's because it's just a bit too sort of outrageous for that to happen and stuff, but it's just like, if people are going to do that, that's going to be slightly It's going to be it's
It's-
concerning for later on down the line.
It's when you think how much the AI has jumped, especially in the last couple of years,
Yeah,
you know, from being these freaky, weird, like, you know, almost like Van Gogh-esque images in some degree. And now there's like some people, you know, can't always tell the difference. You know, there are the odd little giveaways. You know, you see a hand that's got 7 fingers, or, you know, you've
a
got
thumb that's on the bar
yeah,
over there.
yeah, or you've got someone like, you know, like their eyes slowly moving up on their head, or, you know, some of these things are
I
like,
was watching Underworld last night with my wife, and we realized it had AI generated captioning, and then realized it was doing it really badly because instead of calling them lichens, it was calling them lichens.
oh,
And
that's
it was,
not that's not what I thought you were going to say.
and it's like it just kept throwing us out because obviously this captioning was not checked or verified, and it goes on, oh, this is the first lichen killing in years.
There's a whole thing about a lot of the video games from Sony, because there's a few of the PlayStation exclusives that had their, not so much the subtitles for the English dubs, but subtitles like for Spanish and like a lot of the other languages were being done with AI, and there were so many errors that were being picked up afterwards, and they're going to have to go, no, don't worry, we're going to correct it. We're going to correct it. Chat GPT, what are you doing to me?
Well, I use Otter quite a lot in my work as a journalist, and I transcribe all my interviews, and just but you can't trust it.
Yeah,
any remotely technical subject or strong accent, it is going to struggle.
Yeah, it's definitely
you definitely need to double check whenever you're asking AI for anything. I know that the only time I used, because I know that the writing community severely frowns upon the use of AI with any kind of writing, and I stand by the phrase, you know, if who wants to read a book, no one could be bothered to write. But as far as I mentioned before, you know, my background is very different, and I'm trying to write about some pretty heavy physics themes in this. It helped me in terms of shortening my learning curve for some physics topics that I wanted to write about, and at least gave me a starting point. You know, here's what I need to research, here's what I need to go into, and then I could go and find those papers or whatever it was.
I was at a generative AI conference a couple of years ago, and I was brought up and like I was being interviewed about the role of AI in the newsroom. And I was said, like, no, would you ever use like a generative AI system in your writing? I said, well, no, I would never use it because it is all about stuff that has happened. I'm writing stuff that is happening, and we do not have that. The Gen AI does not have that knowledge. However, what I will do is, if I'm researching something that I do not know much about, I'll first ask, tell me about this. That gives me a broad overview. And then I know, okay, I need to focus on this, this, and this, and this subject. This is where I need to focus. But it's going to give me that initial foundation. Okay, my starting point, I know, give me an idea of where to go. That gives me it. But you can't trust it, no matter what.
Yeah, I think it's still in its infancy. It is definitely bounding forward quite rapidly. Like, you know, we use it in work, and it, from what it was last year to what it is now, is just, you know, it's mad. But I think there's the generative AI version, this part of it, and then there's just the large language models, and the large language models parts of it, where it's just reading things and giving you summaries of something that's there. I think that's good because you can optimize things. Like you said, it can help you sort of do research, you sort of optimize your own learning, and you improving you going forward. The generative stuff is where the problem is, and that's the thing. You know, there's a lot of people who sort of lump AI into one thing. It's not. Personally, I don't think it's the same thing. It's just you've got the generative side of things, which is the problem, and you've got the LLMs and the sort of like, you know, that is the sort of bit which is helpful and I think is going good places. This generative side is the worrying part that's potentially going to be problematic.
It's the other side as well, where you think that AI has been, especially for a lot of writers, AI has been used as this tool for many years as like a source of evil, like something that could really go wrong if everything messed up. In particular, if you guys have seen the most recent Mission Impossible films, there is a lot about AI in
I
particular.
laugh so hard at that Mission Impossible film. It is basically the sneakers.
Sneakers. That's
That's
an old school
1992
film.
sneakers. It is
Wow.
basically sneakers,
Wow.
but sneakers is better.
But it's just when you think about all these stories that have used AI, in particular, and I've mentioned it before, Metal Gear Solid 2, one of my favorite video games of all time. There is a whole plot about that where there is an AI that's created, which for the most part you don't know is an AI because it's so human. It's able to manipulate you. It's able to place things into your mind. But you get a sense of familiarity because then you're remembering AI isn't exactly doing something new. It's taking something that's been done before. It's trying to recreate and rejig what's happened before. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing AI is able to create stuff that it has a certain knowledge of. It's trying to create its own world, but it can only use what is already there as a base. It can't necessarily make something that's unique.
Yeah,
But,
and that's where I think it's where the problem is. It's because it is heavily leaning on a lot of other people's work. Now, I can see, like, I use it for our D&D campaigns. I use it to sort of, if I quickly need a picture or I need an explanation about a dwarf in a tavern, something like that, I can see, like, I'm not selling anything. I'm just doing it because it makes it easier for me to create a thing for a D&D campaign. But when you're like, if you can see artists, authors, things like that, I can see why it's frowned upon, because it has to get that information from somewhere, and it's going to be taking it from somebody else at some point in time. So you have to be super careful. AI in general, I feel, is here to stay, and we have to get on board with it in some way, shape, or form. It's just we need to be in a place to regulate it and make sure that there's safeties out there for.
There's a recent news story that Disney and I think another studio was taking a generative AI company to court because they had been using images based on Star Wars. And now you kind of got the mouse good against the tech bros. And that's going to get expensive for everyone involved.
Oh, absolutely. You got Disney on your tail. You're in trouble.
Exactly.
Lawsuits. It's treacherous waters to tread for sure. And I wanted to create a way for us to not to avoid it, but find a way for us to kind of, I guess, meld with AI in a way that was beneficial for both, us and it, if we're talking about it as, this kind of, living, breathing thing, so to speak. But in my book, I describe it as basically the discovery of the Vitalerium element was kind of the saving grace for humanity, because suddenly the finite resources of Earth became kind of a moot point. And I think the way I describe it is realizing our own opportunity to become the gods that we always sought to emulate. It was almost like a shift of priorities. So everything wasn't going into creating something that was bigger and basically more powerful than us, basically trying to rather than trying to create this sentient AI, we just basically perfected AI to the point where it was helping us to explore the cosmos. And you basically utilizing it in a way that we weren't seeing it reach that point where it just becomes kind of a destructive force.
It's like Star Trek AI, the ship's computer and stuff is like where you kind of want it to be, informative, giving you sort of directions, helping you, not doing the bad stuff.
It's certainly a little bit more in line with that, yes. And then, however, there are elements where you'll see later on in the book where the government is using it to basically lead the people in a certain direction by basically using it to convince them of something that isn't true. But, you know, the perfection by then, you know, the ability to create the image or a video of something happened would be, you know, as easy as pie. That could convince an entire populace that, you know, something did happen when it didn't happen. It's used a lot in the news media that you'll see in the story, where you get to basically follow, you know, certain characters as events are happening, but then in the next chapter you get to see how the news reports on it in a very different light, you know, as it's kind of guided by the hand of the government. In the book is called the Coalition for Prosperity, and it's an authoritarian regime. So as you could probably guess, they're not really all about prosperity. But it's I wanted to provide kind of like that that juxtaposition of, you know, here's what you're seeing happen, but then here's what's getting kind of broadcast out to everyone. And so you'll get a fair amount of political intrigue in this book, as well as you start to see some of the political turmoil that's brewing in the background between the different planets. And it was fun. I didn't want to write like a total doomsday AI type of, you know, novel. I feel like that's been done, and I feel like that's being done a lot now. I wanted to definitely show that it can be detrimental, but also focus more on the human aspect of, you know, what is it going to be like when we're out there. So
I've got a couple of questions, actually. I got lots of questions, but you said, well, first one, you said you were looking at seven books. I think you mentioned 7 books going forward. Are you going to do a George R.R. Martin and never
Absolutely
finish
not. I promise you, here and now.
That is the worst thing.
Book 5's going to end on this giant cliffhanger. No, don't worry. I'm writing book 6, but I'm writing book 7 at the same time.
15 years later, I'm still.
Has anyone checked on? Here and now.
Anyone checked on George R.R. Martin recently? Actually, just to make sure that, you know, he's okay.
He said it. He said he's probably not going to finish them. And I was like, we could have told you that 15 years ago, George. Fuck. I could have told you that.
You said you got 7 books planned out, and it's set 700 years in the future. And the book starts like the 7th anniversary, I think, of the planet. 7 crops up a lot in regards to these stories.
What was that? What was the question?
The number 7 crops up a lot in the story. 700 years in the future. You got 7 books planned out.
Oh, 7 comes up a lot. Yeah, that was kind of by accident, actually. Okay. That was just, you know, it's funny, as I was doing the math for all of the different years and how
Yeah, so it's just coincidence. It's not a coincidence.
That is a coincidence.
Okay, right. I thought it was some like deep sort of kind of thing.
No, we'll find out. We'll find out at the end of the book 7, that the main character is the 7th son of a 7th son. That definitely top.
Dude, you should totally work that in there. You know, you got 6 more books to go.
I'm just doing it on purpose.
Yeah. Okay, so that's like. So 7 books, you're definitely going to get them finished, which is good. There are some very, very prolific writers out there who will just bang one out a year, which is great. But you got people like George R. Martin who rests on their laurels, who doesn't.
I think when you get someone like James Patterson, like, you know, he puts out like 3-4 books a year. How the hell do you do that?
That is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking to do probably about 1 per year in the series, just to give myself the time I need to do it right.
The comfortable standard, I think, is the best way to put it for a lot of writers, where they get 1 out a year, they maintain productivity without burning themselves out, and just kind of keep that ball rolling with them.
Right. Yep. And if, I mean, it seems to be at least the track that I'm on now. I'm actually just a little more than halfway done with book 2, which just came out in October. So I'm hoping to get this one out now that I've gone through the editing process and the publishing process once before. I'm hoping to, you know, be able to shorten that process a little bit next time and get this book out end of this year.
Nice. Second question. I'm obviously talking about Game of Thrones, and I quite like a darker edge to my books, more black and more grey to them black and white. Is Vitalerium? Is it more sort of like he's talking about space opera? So is it going to be more along the lines? Is it more along the lines of Star Wars in that it's good versus evil, with no real sort of in between, or is there more of a sort of kind of grey area within it?
There's definitely a bit of gray area here, and I try to show that. I mean, despite the fact that it's an authoritarian government, and that there are some people within the government who you see who are just absolutely completely corrupt, doing horrible things, using violence as just another tool in the tool belt whenever they see fit, and then you see other people within the coalition who are just living their, it's a job, and they're doing what they're meant to do, and they're not all bad people. It's the government structure itself that is leading to a lot of corruption, and certain people at the top who have motives that will come to light that are leading to a lot of, like I said, the political turmoil that's brewing. But part of the fun of the book is kind of discovering what is going on in the background as you follow a number of politicians. You follow a few different people you follow some politicians who are trying to figure out what the leader is actually up to. And so there is goodness even in a structure that is ultimately doing a fair amount of evil. People are just people. And there are bad ones that end up, ruining it for the rest of them. And I do try and walk that gray space a little bit in terms of showing, the goodness in some of the people, even within the coalition for prosperity, as well as the people who are outside of it and receiving kind of the shit end of the stick.
I think that's why you get I've been banging the drum for Rogue One and Star Wars, and obviously Andor, which has just come out as well, being some of the best Star Wars that has ever been created, simply because they had that darker edge to it, and you had that sort of what would have been another Star Wars film as whiter than white good guys who are borderline questionable in certain ways and stuff, and in that reality, that grayness just makes it more engaging. And I think that's where you're talking about there are good people on the inverted commas bad side. Likewise, there are bad people within the good side doing things for what they think is good, or just doing it because they need to survive. And I love that. I like that angle. I like that sort of kind of that gray sort of kind of mirage in front of you when it comes to these sort of things. That's what really gets me when it comes to books and stuff. I love it.
And I felt like that was important to include in this series, because I feel like we live in a very polarized time.
Exactly.
And being able to kind of take a step back and recognize that not everything is so black and white, and that it's just a failure of your perception.
Yeah.
And and that was really important to me. And so even the protagonist himself, he walks some very gray moral areas. I mean, he when you meet him, he's basically a mercenary. He's working in the underworld for different gangs, and he has a particular talent for violence. But there are, there are good qualities in him, and even leadership qualities that he's obviously had on the back burner for as long as he can remember, because the guy is just suffering from so much post-traumatic stress disorder. So you'll see that as you read it, even though he is extremely rough around the edges, there is a set of morals that he kind of adheres to, surprisingly, which is more related to his upbringing rather than the string of events that lead him to, his work in basically the criminal underworld.
Awesome. Sold.
Me too.
That's all I needed to know. I'm looking for the audiobook now.
Yes. All right. Well,
I know
I
you're kind
sincerely
enough to
hope you
send us a
enjoy it.
PDF, but because the audiobooks are like it's the only way I get to read
Mm.
things properly these days, unless I'm sitting on the beach somewhere. But yeah, so brilliant, awesome, yeah, sounds good.
All right.
So we'll give Matt a minute just while we finishes his purchase order.
There's a classic podcasting as well. Excuse me while we sit here and order the audiobook online. Live on air.
I'm showing support, Peter.
But Matt, don't play it over the microphone because otherwise we'll have to pay royalties. Actually, yeah, play it. Go on then.
Okay. What time are we on? Yeah. Okay. Well, I was going to say. Sorry. Just because because you were talking earlier about hard science and sort of it's sort of a mix of both. Have you ever seen or read oh god.
The Expanse?
The Expanse. Yeah, I was going to say The Expanse.
I did not read The Expanse, but I was a big fan of the series.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good. So good.
Yeah,
so
very
good.
good. And I was happy when it was Amazon picked it up after
Yes.
Sci-Fi had dropped it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they do the same thing for Firefly, like all the other.
Do you know what? I've never seen Firefly. Everybody sort of says, give me your nerd cards. You've never seen Firefly. I just feel like at this point in time now, I'm just like, I just refuse to watch it because people expect me to watch it. But yeah. But like, The Expanse is just some of the best sci-fi I have seen. And I talk about it every time we mention The Expanse on this podcast. I just love it. It was one of these series where I had zero interest in it. And then it got picked up on Amazon. I was lost for something to watch. I'll go, all right, I'll give that a whirl. I went, oh my god, this is some of the best sci-fi I have watched in a very long time. So good.
It's a super enjoyable series. I'm gonna be that guy, and I'm gonna tell you should probably try Firefly one more time, just because I'll tell you one of the things I really liked about Firefly was the idea that the planets that were more recently colonized were basically living in almost like a Wild West scenario. Still, they just didn't have the same kind of access to all of the technology, and I saw that as kind of an interesting, almost like something I had never thought of in the idea of space expansion and planetary exploration and everything. Just that it wouldn't be so straightforward, like everyone's going to be in a spaceship. So some planets probably weren't going to have the same kind of access to things, which is why you see them go to some backwater planets and they're riding horses. It's interesting to see.
Yeah.
So
again, it's not because I dislike. It's just because I got to a point where I've spent so long
stubborn.
not
Stubborn.
watching, and it's just more people. Every person who turns around to me and says I'm a blasphemer for, or trying to take a nerd card from me because I haven't watched it, just makes me not want to watch it anymore. It's like no, but because you.
All right, well then keep fighting.
Matt, you listened to me when I told you to watch The Expanse. I'm now telling you to watch Firefly. I've been proven correct once.
Okay.
I'm therefore 100%.
Yeah, that's true, actually, Pete, because I was like, you were talking about The Expanse, and I was like, but it's a sci-fi film, as in the channel sci-fi, and like, as they do Sharknado, I was like, it can't be any good, and then it was, and I was like, oh my god, proven wrong. All right, yeah, I mean, yes, I'm running out of things to watch currently. My missus is dragging the depths of Netflix and stuff at the minute, and keeps on sending me these things. Oh, this looks really good. I'm like, this is not good. This is not
Hey,
good.
be careful, you might start writing a book soon.
Yeah, when you said that, and you were talking about there's nothing left, I was like, oh man. When you're watching thing about sharks in Paris, you're just like you're scraping the barrel when it comes to sharks in the Seine in Paris. I was like, oh, we're really scraping the barrel here. But there you go. I have wrong thing, wrong one.
Hey, all right.
All done. Added to my backlog. I've got The Devils by Joe
Move it to the
Abercrombie
top.
to finish off with, but then I'll carry on with that after. Okay, right. JonJo.
Oh, I've got to do some work now. Okay.
We will move on to our pub quiz section, which is a very short one. We won't keep you very much longer.
It's only 3 questions for the round, so
I'm currently doing quite well, though. I'm currently doing quite well.
Famous last words.
Yeah. So what we normally do is I write a series of rounds, and then there's a bit of a choice. Nick, as you are our guest, you will get to pick the round of your choice, and then the remaining rounds will be for the other two fellas. So the rounds I've written tonight are. I'll keep it a close eye because I want to see Pete's reaction when I read out some of these. So tonight's rounds are Red Dwarf, Cyberpunk 2077, Spider-Man, The Simpsons, and finally, Vampire the Masquerade.
Team Vampire the Masquerade just to see Pete's head explode.
I promised ages ago I was going to write a Vampire the Masquerade
just
round.
do it because people go. It's like every other article on the website, every other podcast, Vampire the Masquerade. Pete has a thing for Vampire the Masquerade, so if you did that, it would blow his mind.
All right, go on, Nick. What would you like to go for?
I'm gonna go Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh,
Choice.
Good choice. Right, here we go then. Question number 1: which character is voiced by Keanu Reeves?
Is this who is Johnny Silverhand?
Hey!
Oh, it's not Jeopardy, but I'll take it.
I was worried I was going to answer it incorrectly.
No, I'm not going to say no. You didn't put it in the form of a question. Yeah, I should have said it like that. Yeah, this character is voiced by Keanu Reeves in the 2020 video game. Correct. Question number 2: what is the name of the fictional metropolis where the game takes place?
Night City.
Night City is correct. And question number 3: what is the subtitle to the animated spin-off released on Netflix in 2022? Is it A, Edge Runners? Is it B, Blood Nation? Or is it C, Maelstrom?
Edge Runners.
It is Edge Runners.
Oh, 3 for 3
out of 3.
3 for 3. I was a big fan of was it William Gibson's Neuromancer?
Excellent choice.
Which is where a lot of that stuff came from. So yeah.
Actually, I was chatting with Mike Ponsmith, who created Cyberpunk, and he didn't read Neuromancer until much later. It was Hardwired, which was the inspiration for Cyberpunk role-playing game.
Really?
It was only Neuromancer that came on much later, and it was like, oh, wow. And it was one of those kind of moments of serendipity, where you just kind of realize that they're kind of both riffing on the same themes, but creating very different mediums.
Which is interesting because he even had in the book. Sorry, spoilers. Just a heads up. In the book, he even has basically a dead construct, a personality that he's talking to from someone that he used to know.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly. Yeah, the dead construct. Yeah. It's going to bug me. It's going to bug me now. I know exactly
I'm going to get a message at about 1 o'clock in the morning. It was this.
Yeah.
All right. So, Matt, it's your turn next. So, Red Dwarf, The Simpsons, Spider-Man, or Vampire the Masquerade?
I should kill Vampire the Masquerade just to sort of. I know very little about it, despite the guests we've had. And I just feel like because Pete took one of mine once, so I feel like I should get him back. But I won't, Pete. I will let you have it. I will go for.
I'm waiting for him to get through it, and he'll just say, "No, go Red Dwarf."
I don't know. Thing is, man, like my Red Dwarf knowledge ceases to exist after the stuff that was on Channel 4.
Yeah.
So the newer stuff I just haven't watched.
The Spider-Man one is on the films, if that helps.
Okay. All right, we did go through all the Marvel films, didn't we, JonJo?
We went through all the release
we
of Marvel
named them
films
all.
for the
We
MCU,
tried to do them in order, and then quickly failed. But
you,
at least we
got them all with a little bit of prompts.
Yeah, we got them all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a possibility. Simpsons is also a possibility. What are my other options? Vampire the Masquerade, and that was it.
Yeah, and Red Dwarf.
Simpsons or Spider-Man. I'm gonna have to go Spider-Man, though. It's going to.
Okay.
I don't know how good I'm going to be on this one.
All right, here we go then. So, question number 1: which character from the Iron Man trilogy appears in all 3 MCU Spider-Man films?
Happy.
Happy is correct. Question number 2: who directed both The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Oh, fuck.
No.
Flatline.
No.
That was the name of that construct.
No.
Oh, yes. Nice.
That gives me a little bit more time to sort of eat this one. I don't. I'm gonna. Yeah, it's not John Favreau.
If I said to you that his name is kind of appropriate for him taking on the Spider-Man films, does that help at all?
Peter Parker.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Right. It was Mark Webb.
Okay.
Webb.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Question number 3: which actor from Spider-Man: Homecoming appears in Morbius?
Ooh,
Someone who needed a check.
Homecoming is the first one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's I want to say Michael Keating.
It was Michael Keating.
Yeah,
yes.
I want to say Michael
because
Keating.
Come on, who would ever forget the
I've not
infamous
seen Morbius
speech,
either. So
yeah. Oh, it's a fantastic post-credit scene where he goes, "I don't know how I got here. Must have something to do with Spider-Man, I think." It's like it's clearly a badly ADR'd line, which they just thought, we're gonna try and tie Spider-Man into this. No, you're not going to. Yeah, we're gonna tie Spider-Man into this. They really tried it. Sony really tried, and they fucked it up every possible time. So, Matt, 2 out of 3.
Boo.
Right. Here's the one we've all been waiting
Vampire the Masquerade.
But I won't even go through the other options, so I'll put them there. Right, here we go. Pete, who created Vampire the Masquerade in 1991?
Mark Van Hagen.
Correct. Question number 2. Which of these is a video game in the franchise? A. Climax, B. Last Hurrah, or C. Swan Song?
Swan Song.
Swan Song is correct. And number 3, how many established clans are there in Vampire the Masquerade?
That is a very awkward question.
I've got a multiple choice.
Okay.
10, 13, or 17?
13 if you're going by the core clans, 17 if you're considering the bloodlines.
Oh, I don't know, Pete. I don't know.
I'm going with 13.
It was 13. It was 13.
Because you also got the Nagarajas and the other kind of Quasian bloodlines as well to consider. But I'm being really nerdy here and probably should just shut up.
Yeah, you're all a bunch of nerds.
Pete, up until 2 hours ago, I knew nothing about Vampire the Masquerade, so I've had to learn it.
Here, Pete, I've still got Vampire the Masquerade as one of my fantasy game. You know, it's basically, I basically play... it's like fantasy football, but it's with games. So you draft computer games throughout the year, and how well they do in the Metacritic is how many points you get. And because Pete bangs on about Vampire the Masquerade, I put that down. Though somebody's counterpicked me, Pete, which means if it fails miserably, I lose points. So I will blame you if that happens.
We should do that for the rest of this year on video games. There's still quite a few big titles coming out.
Yeah, Bloodlines too.
Yeah, well, that's it. Bloodlines 2 is the one I picked, so we'll see what happens.
But my most anticipated one's out in a couple of weeks' time. Death Stranding 2.
Yeah. Apparently, right, and this is completely off. I know we're talking about something completely different, but apparently the music it changes as he goes down hills, or if he goes off the beaten path and stuff. The music changes as he does different.
I've heard this, but
things,
I didn't realise that. Yeah. I need to really do a bit more research into it. But I did hear But then Kojima does come up with some very weird stuff for his games.
Like the game itself.
Gee, you
like
think?
itself, you know.
Walking simulator.
Yeah. Oh, you need to have a piss right there.
Right, cool. Cheers, JonJo. I appreciate that. I will regain my honor in the next episode. I hope something more Matt related would be appreciated. We know my topics.
What's more Matt related? Let me make a note of it now.
You know what?
Come on, tell me what would be more Matt related. Come on.
Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Star Trek Next Generation, I guess.
Do you know what? Let's go with that.
Warhammer,
Next Generation.
I don't know.
No, you're going to get Next Generation next time.
Do that, Matt.
Okay.
Done. We'll make a note of that.
All right.
It's in Sharpie, so it can't.
Or
be
Sharp.
forgotten.
Talking about Sharpie, Sharp. You know, the Napoleonic drama with Sean Bean in it. Yeah,
Right, that's it. That's it. You're getting sharp.
If I don't get sharp, then I will throw out all my books. Actually, no, don't say
That's
that.
all right. So I'd assume your missus is waiting for you to have a clean up. So it's like, yeah, I'll get rid of all
I'm
my
not going to
books.
do that, man. I'm not going to do that. I love sharp, but I know I'll just get something wrong, just feel shame. There's absolute shame. Anyway, Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. So the book's out currently. Comic books out currently. Have you got anything else that needs to be? Well, actually, where can you get these? And have you got anything coming up?
Yeah, so you can get the book on Amazon. You can go to your local indie bookstores, and they'll usually be able to get you a copy of it. You can also get the comic books and the books on my website, vitaleriumseries.com. And you can get access to digital forms of everything on my Patreon, which is Inside Vitalerium.
Amazing. Okay.
Audiobooks on Audible.
Audio, as we noticed. Yeah, I've just got it.
As we noticed by Matt's bit of advertising.
Yes.
When
you come back on with the next one next year, number 2 for next year, we can talk about how I enjoyed it, and comments on what's the actor called? Neeb?
Michael Neeb, yeah.
Michael Neeb. Okay, we'll see what he's like. Okay, so for tonight, I've been Matt Geary. With me has been Peter Ellison.
Good night, everyone.
And JonJo Cosgrove.
Take care, everybody.
And our special guest, Nick Casbarro.